I let my son go to prison for something he didn't do. 6 years later, my stepdaughter was dying. He was her only match. I knocked twice. Now I'm standing in a hallway on Cleaver Street holding a gas station coffee I stopped drinking 20 minutes ago, listening to my phone go off in my coat pocket. That's Dr. Osei. Jade's numbers dropped again overnight and the window they gave us in November keeps getting smaller. The only bone marrow match they've found after almost a year of searching is on the other side of this door. My son Ryan. Who I haven't spoken to in months. Who blocked my number 3 days ago when I started calling. I hear him moving around in there. The door opens. He's thinner than I remember, and he has a beard now. There are lines around his eyes that weren't there when he was 26. He's in a gray t-shirt and sweatpants and he doesn't look surprised to see me, which is the first thing I notice. He just steps back from the door without saying anything and I walk in. One-room apartment. Kitchen along the left wall, a couch, a flat screen sitting on a plastic storage bin. A window that looks out over a parking lot. In the drying rack next to the sink, one plate. One cup. One fork. He sits in the only chair. I sit on the edge of the couch. Neither of us says anything for a minute. I got Jade's letter, he says. I nod. I know what Tom did. He looks at the floor. I know what you did too. 6 years ago, Tom Vickers sat across my kitchen table and spread out printed spreadsheets and bank statements and told me Ryan had been stealing from the bakery. $47,000 over 18 months. He had account numbers, transaction dates, Ryan's employee login on every line. He was crying, which I had never seen Tom do in 4 years of marriage. 3 weeks before that, Ryan had come to me nervous, carrying his own folder. He said something was off with the finances. He named Tom. I told him he was reading it wrong. I said Tom built that business with me. I said Ryan was jealous. We fought and he left. That same evening I told Tom everything Ryan had said. So when the police showed up that Tuesday morning in March, Tom already knew exactly what shape the frame needed to be. Ryan called me from the back of the patrol car. I watched his name on my phone and I let it ring. I told myself I needed to hear all the facts first. That's what I told myself in the 30 seconds it took his name to stop blinking. His public defender was 29 years old. The trial lasted 2 days. Tom's spreadsheets were clean and internally consistent, and nobody on Ryan's side had the time or resources to tear them apart properly. Ryan had no alibi for 3 of the dates. His mother wasn't a witness. Not because anyone stopped me. Because I was home with the blinds down. He got 14 months at Portage Correctional. I visited once, around month 3. We sat across a table from each other and he looked at me and said, "Why didn't you pick up?" I told him everything moved so fast. I told him I'd been overwhelmed. He was quiet for a long time and then he said, "You know I didn't do this." And I said, "Ryan, I don't know what happened." That was the last real conversation we had for years. 8 months into his sentence, Sarah sent his grandmother's engagement ring back through his cousin Marcus because she couldn't face sending it directly to a correctional facility. Ryan had proposed with that ring. They'd been together 4 years. I heard about it the following spring at a birthday party, standing by the snack table, nodding like I was hearing neutral information about someone I barely knew. When he was released, he went to Akron. I found out from Marcus. Ryan didn't tell me himself. I mailed a card with $50 in it to the address Marcus gave me. He didn't respond. I found the real records 14 months after his release. Tom had been gone by then, we'd divorced while Ryan was still inside, and he'd cleared out his things slowly over several months. One afternoon I was cleaning the garage to make room for a shelving unit and I found a box he'd left behind, shoved behind a broken inkjet printer. Bank statements in paper form, which seemed strange even then. And underneath them, a folder. I stood there holding it, reading it again. Same transaction codes as the spreadsheets from the trial. Same 18 months, same amounts, same dates. But it was Tom's employee login, not Ryan's. Tom's name, written plainly, on all of it. The thing Ryan had tried to show me a week before his arrest, the thing I'd told him he was misreading, was right here, documented clearly, and had been sitting in Tom's possession this entire time. I sat down on the concrete floor and stayed there for a while. I don't know how long. I could have driven to Akron that afternoon. I could have called a lawyer. This was real evidence. It was the kind of thing that gets convictions overturned. What I actually did was carry the folder inside and put it in the drawer of my bedside table. I told myself I needed to find the right way to approach it. That I needed to think about how to say it. That there would be a better moment. 3 weeks passed. Then 3 months. Then a year. Then 3 years. Every day I knew it was in that drawer. Sometimes I'd open it, look at the folder, and close it again. Then I'd go make coffee. Ryan rebuilt what he could. He couldn't get his accounting license reinstated, couldn't get past the background check that every firm runs now. He got a job doing night stock at a warehouse on Route 8. He found the apartment on Cleaver Street. 4 years ago he updated his LinkedIn profile once and then stopped. That was the shape of his life. Then Tom had a stroke. He's in a memory care facility in Strongsville now. His daughter Jade, my stepdaughter, the girl I raised from age 11 after her mother died, started going through his files to handle his affairs. What she found wasn't the folder I'd kept. Tom had apparently kept a second copy of the records in storage, buried among years of paperwork and tax files. She spent days going through the records. The more she read, the clearer it became that Tom had framed Ryan. Then she wrote Ryan a letter. She told him everything. Tom, the real records, the 14 months Ryan had served. She told him she was sorry. And then she told him she was sick. Acute myeloid leukemia, 3 rounds of chemo, and the doctors were telling her she needed a bone marrow transplant or she was out of options. She wasn't asking him for anything. She said that specifically in the letter. She just felt he had the right to know. She wasn't asking for anything, Ryan says now, in the apartment. She just told me. I know. The hospital called me separately. I signed up for the bone marrow registry back in 2016 when Marcus's nephew needed a donor. Turns out I'm a potential match for Jade. He pauses. So I went in. Got tested. I nod. And then I stopped returning their calls. My phone buzzes again. 3 times in a row, which means Dr. Osei is leaving a voicemail. Jade's numbers. The window. What happens if a transplant doesn't happen soon? Ryan watches me ignore it. How long does she have? He asks. They're saying 4 to 6 weeks without the transplant. Maybe less now. He closes his eyes. Opens them. Looks out at the parking lot. Why didn't you tell me, he says. Once you found the records. Why didn't you call me? I don't have an answer that isn't just the truth, which is that I was afraid. Not of him being angry. Of him finding out that I'd known for 3 years and kept it in a drawer. Of what that made me. So I kept not looking at it directly, and every year that passed made it harder to look at, and I told myself there would be a better time, and there wasn't. I don't have a good enough answer, I say. He doesn't respond to that. I think you should go, he says. He didn't yell. He didn't cry. He just said it, quietly, like someone who'd already done the work of processing this long before I showed up. I stand up and take my coffee from the counter and walk to the door. I say his name. I tell him I'm sorry. It sounds like exactly what it is. He doesn't answer. I called 7 times over the next 4 days. By the 3rd day the calls weren't going through, he blocked me. I drove back to Cleaver Street on a Saturday and knocked on 2F for several minutes until his neighbor opened his own door on the chain and told me the guy in 2F had mentioned visiting family. He'd left on Friday. The neighbor didn't know when he was coming back. I called Marcus. I can't help with this, Paula, he said. He used my first name, not unkindly. Just accurately. Marcus, she's going to die. I know. I'm sorry. But you have to understand, I'm not in the middle of this. He hung up. Somehow that was harder than if he'd been angry. The transplant coordinator called me at 6 in the morning on a Tuesday. Ryan had contacted the hospital the night before. He'd spoken to Dr. Osei. He said he wanted to meet Jade before making any decision, and Jade had agreed. He was coming in Wednesday. I wasn't part of those calls. I found out in a 2-minute conversation with the coordinator, and then I sat at my kitchen table with my phone face down in front of me. What I learned later, from Jade, is that he arrived on a Wednesday afternoon. She'd asked me not to be there, and I wasn't. He stayed about an hour. She said she apologized to him immediately. She said she was sorry it took her getting sick for any of this to come out. Ryan told her it wasn't her fault. Then he spent most of the hour asking about her treatment. What the chemo had been like. What she was most afraid of with the transplant. Whether she had people around her. He was so gentle, Mom, she said when she told me about it. She cried saying that. I cried in the parking garage on my way out. He agreed to go forward with the donation. The collection happened on a Friday, about 6 weeks after his first call to the hospital. That morning I couldn't sit still in the waiting room, so I walked to a coffee shop 2 blocks away and sat at a corner table for 4 hours watching people come in and out. My phone buzzed at 12:37. Marcus. It's done. Ryan told me to tell you. I read that twice. He didn't call me himself. His number was still blocked. But he'd made sure I knew. I've turned that over a lot since then, and I still don't know exactly what to make of it. I don't know if it was an opening or just a fact being communicated. I try not to read into it more than I should. Jade's counts started moving on day 32. Dr. Osei used the word engraftment and said he didn't want to promise anything this early, but I could see his face when he said it. There was going to be a Jade. I cried in the hospital bathroom with the tap running. Then I came out and sat by her bed and held her hand while she slept and looked at the 4th lines running into her arm. That night I texted Ryan's number, mine went through. I don't know if he'd unblocked me or if it just found a way. I wrote, Jade's engraftment is working. Doctors say she's going to make it. Thank you. Blue check marks. He read it. Nothing back. An hour later I sent another. I know this doesn't fix anything. I know you know about the folder. I had it for 3 years and didn't tell you. I'm not going to try to explain it. I just wanted you to know that I know exactly what I did. He read that one in under a minute. He didn't respond. That was about 4 months ago now. He didn't come at Christmas. I sent a card to Cleaver Street and it wasn't returned, so I think he got it. Jade is doing outpatient monitoring in Pittsburgh. She sends me photos of her apartment, her plants, a couch she found at a second-hand shop. She sounds like herself again. She told me last month that she and Ryan have been talking, short calls, she said, nothing heavy. I think he's okay, she said, gently, the way you say something to someone who doesn't really deserve the reassurance but you're offering it anyway. I'm glad, I said. I didn't ask her to pass anything along. I'm still in this apartment. I never put up the pictures Jade told me to put up. The walls are empty. There are boxes in the 2nd bedroom I haven't touched in almost 2 years. The folder is still in the filing cabinet. I brought it with me when I moved. I haven't thrown it out. I'm not sure why. It's not like it's useful to anyone now that Ryan knows the truth. It's just there. Sometimes I open the drawer and look at it. Then I close the drawer. There's no version of this where what I did makes sense. Not the night I didn't answer the phone. Not the garage. Not the 3 years after the garage. I know that. I've known it for a long time, and knowing it doesn't help anything at all. Jade is alive because my son is a better person than I raised him to be, or deserved him to be. That's not a lesson. It's just a thing I have to live with.